Welcome to everyone here from AETA. I'd like to acknowledge that I'm speaking to you from the land of the Kulin Nation, and I acknowledge their elders past and present and future, and I recognise that sovereignty was never seceded. I'm especially pleased to take part in this launch of Anne Wigglesworth's book, which documents the partnership between the city of Port Phillip and Suai in Timor-Leste. Because I was involved in the formation of this committee right from the beginning, and I worked very closely with Abel Guterres from the 70s in trying to persuade the Australian government to support the right of the East Timorese to independence. I'd now like to introduce Megs Alston, Chair of Friends of Suai Covalima. Megs?
Thanks very much, Jean, and thanks to AETA for facilitating this book launch tonight. Jean has a particular connection with Suai because she visited Suai prior to the independence ballot, the referendum, and she met the local priests in Suai, who were later murdered in September 1999, along with more than 100 people who sought refuge in the church there, in what is known and commemorated as the Suai massacre. So it's very great that you're involved tonight, Jean. So I'd like to also welcome everyone here again tonight. It's fantastic that we've got so many people with us to help attend the launch of this book by Anne Wigglesworth. I think there are over 100 people have registered and they're joining us as we speak. And Anne's book, of course, as you know, is part of the celebration of the 20th anniversary of Friends of Suai Covalima. So just briefly about my sort of participation in those early days. In 1999, I was working at Australian Volunteers International. And after the popular consultation ballot on the 30th of August and the ensuing emergency, we established an East Timor program, which I managed. And over the next few years, we sent several hundred volunteers to East Timor to help support the, the recovery period. We also, Jean just mentioned Abel Guterres. We had enjoyed a very close relationship with Abel Guterres at AVI. He was then a leading figure in the East Timor resistance movement in Australia. And he was the person whom Gusmão enlisted in Australia to secure local government support for various towns and districts in Timor-Leste. I can still remember when we visited Anne Dunn, who was the City of Port Phillip CEO, and she readily agreed to put this idea to council, and the rest is history. So it's a great pleasure now to introduce Kirsty Gusmão, who doesn't need much introduction to this audience tonight. Chair of the Alola Foundation and Goodwill Ambassador for Education from Timor-Leste. They're her current roles. I'm very pleased now to invite Kirsty to launch Anne's book, Friendship for Development. Thanks, Kirsty.
Thanks a lot. Thank you, Megs, for that introduction, and thank you, Anne, for your book and for inviting me to launch it. Thanks to the Australia East Timor Association for organising this virtual gathering. It's an interesting coincidence, or perhaps no coincidence at all, actually, that I first learned about the importance of friendship as the basis for good development work many decades ago from a number of wonderful individuals who've been a driving force behind the Friends of Suai Covalima. Bill Armstrong, Megs Alston, Pat Jessen, all of whom were mentors to me in the years that I worked for Australian Volunteers Abroad, now Australian Volunteers International. So underpinning AVI's philosophy was the notion that good and sustainable development work stems from people-to-people bonds built on cross-cultural understanding, mutual respect, trust and friendship. The same philosophy is at the heart of the work that the Friends of Suai Covalima does, and indeed all of the other roughly 40 friendship groups too. As Bill Armstrong points out in his preface to this book, Friendship for Development, the two-way community engagement approach of the friendship associations adds an important dimension to Australia's foreign aid program. Over the years of being involved in the grassroots work of very many friendship associations, I've indeed reflected often on how impactful their work is across so many areas, education and training, health and livelihoods among them. And also how undervalued possibly in terms of the numbers of lives touched, dollars raised and spent, relationships and networks formed. And so, as I say in my little blurb on the back of Anne's book, it's important that this work has been documented, and I commend Anne for her extensive research and work, including gathering the stories and perspectives of Suai community members. I particularly appreciated the comment of Covalima Community Centre Director Alberto Barros, who's with us today, on the differences between the Friendship Association's work with the community and that of large international NGOs. He says that international NGOs come into a country and a community with often very rigid guidelines and parameters to work within, believing that they know best what is required in developing nations. The beneficiaries are forced to adapt their needs to fit the organisation's mission or miss out. Not so with Friends of Suai Covalima, which is guided in its work by the local community through a community reference group which articulates its own priorities. I confess that I've had my own epiphanies when it comes to learning how to put aside one's personal convictions as to what a people emerging from conflict and trauma require. When I first set up the Alola Foundation, my women's NGO, which is named after 15-year-old Suai resident Juliana dos Santos, in 2001, I had an idea that trauma counselling would be a great focus for Alola's work. However, travelling around the country and sitting down over a meal or a cup of tea with women and their families, I was told that in fact what was a priority for most women was assistance with livelihoods, some training in small business management, how to make a proposal and a budget, how to access seed funding to establish a new enterprise. And so that is in fact where Alola began, with a project to support women weavers. I believe that having the humility to listen and to allow what one hears to chart an unexpected course is very important and the crux of the Friendship for Development model. Finally, let me thank all of the people who have stood behind Friends of Suai Covalima with such steadfast passion and commitment for the past 20 years. This book is a celebration and acknowledgement of your solidarity with and impact upon our nearest and dearest northern neighbour, Timor-Leste. Obrigada, Barak, and Viva Timor-Leste.
Thank you very much, Kirsty, and for your words and your insights, which are really important to share. So Anne Wigglesworth has put together a wonderful record of this friendship, as Kirsty said, between our two communities here and in Covalima. It's a great credit to Anne, who conceived the idea, and to all those who've contributed. And as Kirsty said too, this book is an important documentation of all that's been achieved. Congratulations, Anne, on this book. And I'd now like to call on Anne to say a few words about why she has written the book.
Okay, thank you very much. And thank you so much, Kirsty, for your words. And lovely to hear about your own reflections about friendship and development as well. So thank you very much for that. Yeah, I just wanted to say a few words about the genesis of the book. I have a background in international development and worked as a program manager for Oxfam International Women's Development Agency, Save the Children, but also Caritas, where my engagement with East Timor started back in 1997. I also met the three priests actually in Suai in those years. When I heard about Friends of Suai back in Port Phillip, I really wasn't sure what a small community group would be able to achieve. And I was pleased to connect with a local group because I'd been overseas for a long time, but I wasn't sure what would come out of it. And at the start, yeah, I didn't have high expectations, but I observed over the time the activities of this small group really blossomed, and the three coordinators were very central to that. Lee Kirk, who struggled with incredibly difficult conditions in the first few years, Pat Jessen, who dedicated 13 years to this program, and Carleen Harlock, the current coordinator. All of them are with us here today. As well, a very effective relationship, particularly Pat and Alberto, both who have been with the friendship for so long, and it brought outstanding achievements and very much greater than what I had anticipated. I've been on the community committee for 16 years. I visited Suai 10 times in that period. Often Pat would give me a list of tasks to do when I arrived. And you know, I observed the growth of the community centre, the increasing capacity of the staff, and it went from strength to strength. So when Pat resigned in 2017, and the anniversary, the 20th anniversary, was sort of on the horizon, and I suggested to the Friends of Suai committee that these achievements should be documented. So therein, I took myself a voluntary position documenting the story. So the books gradually started to take shape. I wanted to incorporate different voices from the friendship, people who've been involved from different perspectives. The committee also wanted a film, so video recording, and I asked filmmaker Jen Hughes, who was a member of the committee for the first 10 years, to get involved. So she did, and we will see the film later, and Jen's here with us tonight. But she also wrote the early part of the story, because I joined Friends of Suai in 2004, so I wasn't there for the first 4 years. So Jen very kindly wrote the first, the chapter of that first period. So that was quite an important and quite a significant piece of work. And Jen and I traveled to Suai in April 2019 to research the story from the Timorese perspective. So tonight's launch sort of reflects the model of the book, with a number of different speakers who will talk from different perspectives about the book and the friendship. So there are a few people to talk, but they will be quite small, just vignettes. Importantly, we'll hear from Alberto Barros, who I met on my first friendship visit in Suai in 2005, and he's been a constant strength to the centre. And Hilaria Amaral, who now leads a women's development program. And the community centre has actually become a leader in promoting gender equality in Covalima district, which I think is a very important thing that they have done. So I've documented not only what the friendship achieved, but why I think it worked. The consistent support from the City of Port Phillip provided the foundation for the friendship to flourish. But there was also a strong personal commitment and volunteerism on both sides of the Timor Sea. City of Port Phillip estimated in 2016 that the value of the in-kind voluntary contributions was twice that of the cash contributions. So in friendship, a lot can be achieved with a modest amount of money, and that coordinators and committee members stayed for many years, that the passions of the young people in Suai to contribute to the development of their country were important assets. The path forward was decided by shared decision-making between Friends of Suai and the Community Centre in Suai, grounded in trust, mutual understanding and mutual respect. I would like to thank the many contributors to the book who are with us tonight, including Bill Armstrong, who chaired Friends of Suai for 13 years, 10 generous volunteers who contributed to the friendship as well as share their personal stories in the book, Marie Gladwin, who took on the substantial task of voluntary editor, and as I mentioned, Lee, Pat and Carleen, who are all here with us tonight. And hopefully Abel Guterres will join us, and he will be able to say a few words later on, because he, I think, should really be known as the father of the friendship groups. It was his, he brought it all about. So yeah, and finally, I would just like to say a big thank you to the AETA team who have been so fantastic in helping organize this launch. So thank you all, and thank you again, Kirsty, for coming and sharing this with us and launching the book. And I now hand you back to Megs to introduce the other speakers.
Thanks very much, Anne, and congratulations again on this terrific achievement. Alberto Barros has been director of the Centro Comunidad de Covalima since 2013, and Hilaria Amaral, as Anne mentioned, is the coordinator of its Rural Women's Development Program. It's really fantastic to have you both with us tonight. And can I just say on behalf of Friends of Suai Covalima that we're very proud to be partners of the CCC, which has done so much with and for your community there. Alberto, I invite you to say a few words about the friendship from your perspective, followed by Hilaria, who will tell us how it has contributed to women's development in Covalima. Thanks, Alberto.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, distinguished ladies, gentlemen, and friends. I have been here for 15 years now, working with Friends of Suai and Covalima Community Center. A lot of information has been described by Anne Wigglesworth in the books, more than 100 pages book, story. So now I am going to share information about the banyan tree, which is related to the community center vision, mission, and objectives. So, Friends of Suai, since 2005, when I was employed, always sharing information, experience about community development. Based on the experience I got from Friends of Suai, always talk about community engagement, about programs, action plans, which is really related to local context, local culture, which is symbolized by our culture through a tree, call it holly tree or banyan tree in English. The banyan tree has a trunk that represents our ancestors. Then the branches represent our households and generations, where it is related to the community center vision and mission, which says community center has goals, programs, activities, which is similar to the trunk and branches. So for me, friendship between Phillip through Friends of Suai, Covalima and Suai is supporting each other to the local knowledge, local experience, which is really continue, really sustainable, the community development, which is the holly tree, the trunk, the branches cannot divide it. We're related to the community development, with community development through a community engagement approaches and practices like a banyan tree, the programs, the action plans cannot be divided. If we divide it, then we will not achieve what we want to achieve. So I feel like friends of Suai, that's really friendship for development. That's why we decided to use friendship for development. A lot of investment through capacity building to staff in the community in Covalima. This is also for me and community center, Friends of Suai is supporting the democracy and the good governance practices through the implementation, through the decision making together, and also help each other when we have a mistake. I feel Friend of Suai like my own organization because they never make me guilty when I do make any mistake, and they always help me to find out the solution. That's a friendship means for me. That's why now I have been working here for 15 years now. Let me say I am adult with Friend of Suai and Community Center. And also the banyan tree, if you know that banyan tree, the people can protect people from rain and sun. People can come together, they share experience, the life experience each other to preserve the unity and peace in the community. Where community center also do the same, community for everyone, community for all, to develop their capacity, their ability, so that they can have skills to get the job opportunity in the future, so that they can contribute to the development of social and economy in Covalima, Timor-Leste. I think that I can say now about the rest of the story. Please read 2 books that are available with the Friend of Suai, and also with the current one we launching now. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Alberto. And now, Hilaria, we'd love to hear from you about your thoughts about how the friendship has contributed to women's development in Covalima.
That I was inspired by my father as a farmer and learned gender equality from him. He always gave opportunity for women to talk before making decisions for ritual ceremony and funeral in his family and sacred house. Secondly, I learned a lot from Friends of Suai Covalima by building capacity for strengthening skill of gender equality, community development, and community engagement. Through this opportunity, I also inspired by CCC director always give opportunity and influence women to take part in decision making, as well as always make influence and encourage to the men always discriminate and neglected women to take part in decision making. Besides, CCC is prioritizing the gender equality and struggling for it in Covalima, fundamentally by Constitution, Republic Democratic of Timor-Leste. In Article 17, it talks about gender equality, and Timor-Leste has ratified the Convention of the Elimination of All Discrimination Against Women. CC staff and CC Commission members, including wife and husband, took part in gender equality training, and now CC staff have been continuing with the training of trainers to staff, family, and community. Also staff as a bridge of community development. CC strategic planning aligns with IWDA strategic planning 2016 to 2021, particularly in Goal 1, promote women's leadership and participation, as women's leadership, voice, and participation are a central element of CC key focus area 1 and 2. In particular, in Goal 3, accelerate women's economic empowerment, particularly related to CCK focus area 2, 3, and 5. There's also some crossover with IWDA goals 2 and 4. Women are able to influence decision-making in favor of women's rights via elected leadership roles at local, village, and municipal level. Women in leadership roles support and mentor each other to strengthen confidence and identify strategies to increase the influence of elected women's role in local governance structure. Women advance economically through connecting with each other and with sources of support locally and internationally. Most of women that CCC trained, they were really strong and good confidence while in meeting. They were talking a lot when compared with men, and they also part of potential women in decision making in community. In government institutions such as the commander of police, women have now started to be given opportunity to women to lead. So thank you very much for my speech and nice talking to everyone.
Thanks so much, Alberto and Hilaria. It's so important that we've had you with us tonight and to hear your thoughts and your inputs. And so great to hear about all the changes that you can see happening, Hilaria. And it's terrific to have you two, both local leaders, being able to join us tonight. We're now going to view a short video by a filmmaker and member of Friends of Suai Committee, Jen Hughes, on the 20th anniversary. And thank you, Jen, for all that you do.
Asoro javaneso konitara Mui bere maita hamutu kodi halo e maidade Lolo lima hamutu kita halo funu Asoro javanese comunitarai. Loro mohi, loro mo, loro walu fulang masu, loro mui bere tomatnia, iha mundu raya clara. Loro mohi, loro mo, loro walu fulang masu, loro mui bere tomatnia, iha mundu raya clara. Ui bere mai tahamutu, hamutu kodi halo e mai dare. Lolo lima hamutu kita halo fumu, e soru javanese comunitara. Ui bere mai tahamutu, hamutu kodi halo e mai dare.
Hi, welcome to St Kilda.
Kita halo fumu, e soru javanese.
Thanks very much, Jen. I think it's a great snapshot which actually encapsulates exactly what Anne's talking about in the book. And it's great to see it tonight. Councillor Tim Baxter is the council representative on our committee. We're very fortunate to have had such steadfast support from our council for 20 years and continuing. And from Tim personally over several years, and particularly since he's been on our reference committee. So it's my pleasure to introduce Councillor Baxter now to say a few words. Thanks, Tim.
Hi everyone. Just before I start, I'd just like to acknowledge the Yalukit Willem clan of the Boonwurrung people and pay my respects to their elders, past, present and emerging, as the custodians of the land on which I am zooming in from here, and I'm sure we're all zooming in from many lands. But it's such a fantastic event. As stated, my name's Tim Baxter. I'm the Deputy Mayor of the City of Port Phillip, and it's a great pleasure to be here supporting the launch of Anne's new book on the 20-year partnership between the City of Port Phillip and Suai Covalima. Obviously, I've been on the reference committee since 2016, so only a small chunk of that 20-year partnership, but I hope an important chunk. So when the City of Port Phillip decided to take on a partnership with a Timorese community, Suai was chosen largely because it was the site of the massacre in 1999. Now, the partnership obviously being formed from tragic events, it's amazing to see how it's blossomed into such a wonderful experience that's enriched the lives of residents of Port Phillip for 20 years. I talk to a lot of people about this group because a lot of people don't quite get it and what council's role is here. And I have to explain to them how much value this group does for people in Port Phillip, not just for people in Suai or in Timor-Leste, but the massive value of the community group right here. But obviously, in Suai Covalima, the Friends of Suai Covalima has provided support in areas such as teaching, public administration training, buildings, promoting health and hygiene, village lighting, fostering a new carbon forestry program, and this has largely been through the Covalima Community Centre, or the Centro Comunidade Covalima. I'm not going to try pronouncing that amazingly, but I do come from a Spanish background, so I'm sure it's like going to be a little bit in there. So obviously this centre has been an invaluable resource for development, and has certainly never more so than now in 2020. So the centre has worked hard to share clear and simple information on hygiene and safety practices to locals, including those in remote communities that speak local dialects. But as always, the true heroes of this story are not a building or a centre, but they're the individuals that are on the ground who make up these groups. So the people in both Suai and Port Phillip who selflessly give their time, their skills and their passion to nurturing the model of friendship for development. It's fantastic to see the many faces pictured at the start of Anne's book, and it's a reminder of the value of community involvement and grassroots support. This is not a council top-down partnership sort of thing. It's actually a community partnership in which council plays a key role, but only one to the side of the actual community. So the community provides so much support in areas as diverse as election monitoring, water and sanitation, women's empowerment, art exhibitions, English language teaching, libraries, IT support, you name it. I just want to say on a personal note that it's been a privilege to serve on the Friends of Suai Community Reference Committee since 2016 because it's really helped me see firsthand the power of the Friendship for Development model and the long-term impacts it has had on community development and self-determination in Suai. So thank you to everyone here. Thank you to Anne for this really lovely history of the past 20 years. And thank you to Megs and the committee and everyone who has made our partnership such a success. Cheers.
Thank you, Tim, and we really value your support too. I'd now like to introduce Janet Bolitho, who's a former mayor of the city of Port Phillip and an active Friends of Suai Covalima committee member. And Janet's going to speak about the friendship from the perspective of our community and our volunteers here in the city of Port Phillip. Thanks, Janet.
Thank you, Megs. Thank you, Anne. Good to see so many people here at Anne's launch. Friendship is strangely hard to define, but exceptionally easy to understand. Each of us at the Friends of Suai Covalima has had a different pathway into the friendship, through education, through health, through family associations, but we've come together and we've stayed together because of our shared commitment to the friendship. And this commitment has been strengthened and reinforced by memorable visits to Suai, the English language teachers in 2009, the election observers in 2012, and in turn, we have been enriched by the visit of Alberto and colleagues to Melbourne, where our friendship has deepened and strengthened. And each visit has renewed our determination to communicate and to share the value of the friendship. And along the way, our participation has been enabled and supported by the City of Port Phillip. And our initiatives have been capably and enthusiastically carried out by successive coordinators, most recently Pat Jessen and Kylene Harlock. We have been enlarged and enriched by our friendship. And I just refer back to a little moment in Jean's video where we joined together in Ackland Plaza in the heart of St Kilda to celebrate our friendship, music, song and dance, where we joined hands with members of our own community and members of the Timorese community here in Melbourne to celebrate that friendship. And even Anne's book was born in a committee meeting. You know, she brought the proposal to our committee, we worked out a way together. And I can't think of a committee, I mean, I'm on endless committees and it's been a joy to be part of Friends because I feel standing with the community centre in Suai strengthened, but we have grown in friendship as a committee as well. And I thank everyone for being part of it. Some means are present here at Anne's launch.
Thanks so much, Janet, and that's such a nice insight into what the friendship means to you and to us here in the city of Port Phillip. Oh, sounds like our house is about to blow down. Now, Mr. Peter McMullin, as most of you will know, is the Honorary Consul for Timor-Leste in Victoria. Thank you for being with us, Peter, and for speaking about the friendship groups from the perspective of the Timor-Leste government. Thanks, Peter.
Thank you, Megs, and thank you, Jean, and thank you, Kirsty, for your words, and Tim Baxter for your words, and everybody else, and Alberto, and everyone. What a wonderful event this is, and this heightens the sense that I have around Timor-Leste and our relationship here in Australia, and in Victoria particularly. And I think Jen in her film just really used the words that underpinned the Suai-Covalima relationship as based on a spirit of empathy. And I think it's that spirit of empathy that continues to flow through this book and this night tonight and this event celebrating this 20 years of friendship between Covalima Suai. It's just one of the great friendship stories. I've spoken previously at the 20th anniversary, and I commended the city of Port Phillip for its work in this area and its consistency, its reliability and its ongoing support for this important community, as have so many of the other friendship groups throughout Victoria, and as Kirsty has said, around 40 of them. And but really, the Suai-Covalima one is seriously, in my opinion, one of the most successful, and you all need to be, everybody on this call needs to be applauded for supporting that and putting your arms around it and making sure that it happens. I congratulate you, Anne, for this book. It is a wonderful book. I have a few words on the back of the book, so I really encourage everybody to read the book and get a copy of the book. And there will, when we open the consulate again, which we will soon, hopefully, but it's still operating, by the way, online, but I will have plenty of copies of this available for people. And so, Anne, we might organise how that might happen. But I think it's a really wonderful book and tells a wonderful story, and I think it's a wonderful historical record. Even that document where the councillors at the time signed it, it's a truly historic event. And so I fell in love with these Timor-Leste. 2002, I went there for the Tasatolu celebrations of the independent nation on May 2002, and I have been back there 40 or 50 times since. I've lost count of how many times I've been there, but I've made many good friends and many good associations over the years through Timor. And this relationship here with Suai-Covalima is one example of that. And it's so enriching and so wonderful that Anne's been able to record it in this book in this way. So well done, Anne, and congratulations, AETA, and good luck with the book and everything else we do from now on.
Thanks very much, Peter, for those very kind words about our friendship group. And I mean, I think it's important just to say, without taking anything away from all the achievements that we have, as Kirsty said, there are 40 still of these groups around the country, and some of them are really small, and they're a very small group of people in a community who've kept up this contact that they have with different parts of Timor-Leste. And I just think it's a fantastic idea, and it's just such a wonderful model. So I want to just say thank you very much to all the speakers tonight who've made this such a rich, diverse and illuminating conversation. And I think it's an interesting one from a development perspective too, on the ways in which we can work in partnership with one another for really good community development outcomes. So I'm now going to hand over to Roger King, the Treasurer of AETA, who is going to facilitate a question and answer session using questions from the audience tonight, which have been submitted on the chat line. And I'm hoping we have some questions there, Roger, waiting to be answered. Over to you.
So I think the first thing to do is just to tell people where they can buy the book. And the book can be bought via the AETA website. So there's the address on your screen. There have been 3 questions. The first was from Richard Brown, and it's to Anne. And Anne, will the book be translated into Tetum?
Thank you, Richard, for your question. Yeah, there isn't currently a plan to translate it. There was a small booklet put out by Friends of Suai, which had some of the insights from the book in that, and that is going to be translated. It's a smaller document that's got more photos and less writing in it. So we felt that was very suitable for translation. of course, if somebody decides they want to translate it, like happened with my book Activism and AIDS, I was asked if it could be translated, which was, you know, I was very pleased about. So if that happens, of course, it will be translated. But currently, we don't have the resources to do that. And there's so many people who speak in Timor who are able to understand the English and, you know, speak very good English. So it's really orientated more though to, I guess, the Australian audience of learning from what has taken place.
Okay, thank you, Anne. So the second question is from Kim Robinson. So Kim, if you could unmute yourself. And it's to Alberto and Hilaria. How is COVID-19 affecting you? And what do you have to do to keep safe?
Thank you for the question. It's a great question. As you know, the Covalima, Suai Covalima is directly border with West Timor, Indonesia, where the people from both sides have directly linked culturally, which is really high risk. So what Covalima Community Center doing now is we partner or we work with the local government through a team called it Task Force for COVID-19. That's from the beginning. So community center with support from Friend of Suai increase the awareness of the COVID-19 pandemic prevention to the local community, especially in rural areas who cannot read and cannot write, through show the pictures from the WHO, practice how to wash hands and how to stand with the social and physical distance. Then we also donate basic needs to protect them and ourselves at the community center, the family, and the whole Covalima. What we have done is we did what I have mentioned in 30 villages, 130 sub-villages in 7 sub-districts in Covalima. And now we are help the government to keep informing to the people along the borders how to work together with the government and security agencies from both sides along the border, so that when people cross border, we should be in a quarantine to check. That we can do in Suai. Out of that, we also keep advocating to the government to establish more facilities of quarantine and to educate the people, not only for COVID-19, but also from other diseases. And CCC, Community Center, will take this as a one of the top priorities from now on, with the support from Phillip and Friend of Suai.
Fantastic. Thank you, Alberto. And I hope that you and everyone in the community is safe and feeling well. It's really great to hear about those measures being taken in the community. Thank you.
Thank you. So now we have a few more questions for, well, let's say Hilaria this time. And this one is from Jen Hughes. And Jen asks, what are the plans for the future of the Covalima Cultural Centre?
Now we are planning to advocate to the cultural elders on how they can give opportunity to women to take decision in cultural because most of people in Covalima, especially for the men. So when we talk about the decision making, so men always take a lot of decisions. So sometimes difficult for women to take decision in cultural ceremony or ritual ceremony. We can say that funeral ceremony. So now she is going to planning to do advocacy or socialization information of the gender equality, and now she is planning for gender equality training to women's group, and also we plan to counsel women to take part in the gender equality training so that they can transform this information to the cultural elders, so that cultural elders can give opportunity to women to take part in a cultural ceremony or funeral ceremony. So this one is just to explain about what she is planning to do for the future.
Thank you very much, Hilaria. That's lovely to hear your voice.
Thank you. So now we have one more question for Alberto and Hilaria, and it's from Samantha Bond. And Samantha asks, is the community centre connected to the new Suai Covalima Farmers Union, UNARCO, UNARCO, established in December 2019?
Yes, Covalima Community Center is involved in the UNARCO, that we call it Farmer Association. It is also work with the Oxfam in Timor-Leste, with other farmer groups and NGOs. The community center was hosting the meeting forums to establish the union in Covalima. So we will welcome if someone interested to help us on this in the future.
Right. Okay. So thank you, Alberto.
And maybe Bill Armstrong would like to say something. Yep.
No, I just want to say congratulations to everybody who have been involved. That's all I'd like to say. I think it's a fantastic book. It's a fantastic 20 years, successful 20 years. Particular congratulations to all our friends in Suai Covalima. You've proven for me, and I think you've proven for all of us, that real development is about relationships and self-determination, which are the two things that are left out of most of our overseas aid programs. But other than that, I just say congratulations to everybody.
Thank you, Bill.
Well, I'd particularly like to say what a wonderful evening it's been, and both the book is marvellous, but also because I've been involved for so long in Timor, it's fantastic to see all the people that I've known over these years are still all involved, and that's something pretty special, that the relationship, not only here in St Kilda, or should I say Port Phillip, but also in Timor, and I think it's the best program amongst the various city. Well, not that I know that much about all of them, but certainly I believe that very early in the piece, this Friendship City learned how to listen and how to say, that was a mistake, we should change this. They're so involved that we were able to have that ongoing conversation, and that's why I think you're all still here. So I'd like to just wrap up by saying, don't forget to buy the book, and thank you all for participating.
Thank you very much, everybody, for participating. I really appreciate it.